All right, everybody, welcome back to the Move podcast, brought to you each and every time this tour by Ventum Bikes. My favorite bike I'm riding right now. Just so you know, designed, tested, and assembled in North America and delivered directly to your door. Special offer for our listeners, 10% off when you use the checkout code WEDO over at ventumracing.com/themove. I personally ride the NS1 on the road and the GS1 on the gravel, which I would have definitely needed for today's uphill finish. We're also highlighting a few riders throughout the tour on select days of the week. All riders who are selected, all you got to do is tag at Ventum Racing and at WeDo.team on Instagram. We'll select you guys when you tell us about what riding means to you. And you're also registered to win a free either NS1 or GS1. Again, ventumracing.com/themove. Talking about Stage 7, I'm joined by JB Hager and George Hincapie. And you know, mais désolé pour mon ami Alain hier. I made a big mistake and I didn't call out Alain to give us the from where to where yesterday. So let's cue Alain talking about Stage 7. Where are we going, Alain?
Stage 7, from Tomblaine to la Super Planche des Belles Filles. From Tomblaine to la Super Planche des Belles Filles.
How could I ever forget that? It's so good. And of course, I don't know if you guys talked about it on JB Squared yesterday, what the history of Planche des Belles Filles.
We didn't get into it.
Good.
It's a ugly past.
Yeah. Well, a lot of you know, but the rest of the world has an ugly past too.
True.
And in fact, today, things aren't so pretty either. Today's show also brought to you by Element. This is our go-to hydration source. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. There is no sugar, no gluten, no artificial ingredients. It is the real deal. Special offer for our listeners. Head on over to drinklmnt.com/themove. You get a free sample pack with that, just for the cost of shipping. And try out all the flavors, kind of dial in the one you like. I'm telling you, it is our go-to. We love it. Also today brought to you by Roka on all sides. And this is just, I commented on the WeDo Instagram page yesterday, a full apology to Rob over at Roka. I cannot keep a pair of readers. He sent me 2 of the new black dope readers, and in 5 days I've lost them both. It is, I don't know.
Was that a 4th of July victim?
I feel like, it's easy to blame what happened to me on the 4th. I was taken advantage of on the 4th of July. But
might have something to do with the fact that you go biking with like 3 pairs of glasses, readers, biking glasses, and casual glasses, and you'll wear all 3 at the same time as well. It could have something to do with that. I don't know.
God. But anyways, on the sunglass side, the prescription side, Rob and his crew down in Austin, Texas, our hometown, they're making the best stuff. And what's cool too is you see them as we go out and pedal, as we do every day. We see so much Roka out there. So Rob and your crew, looks like you're kind of taking over the world. We love it. Unbelievably lightweight, no slip. It's got it all. Special offer for our listeners, 20% off. Just go to Roka, that's ROKA.com. And the checkout code is THEMOVE, 20% off. Well. Hey, Wout van Aert didn't do anything today. I guess that's one headline we forgot.
Yeah, we saw him helping out with some water bottles and things, but yeah, not in the breakaway. And I think the first breakaway that Magnus Cort Nielsen didn't make either.
Although he tried. I don't know if you didn't give me any credit. I was up very early this morning. I am still on that train since the 4th of July, so I'm up bright and early. But he tried to get across with Michael Woods and didn't. And when I saw that, I'm like, man, this guy just is a glutton. But didn't make it.
2 also obviously very good climbers, with Magnus being in the mountain jersey. Clearly not one of the top climbers, but Michael Woods for sure, top climber. And like we had predicted yesterday, we had some real climbers in that breakaway with Dylan Toons and Kemner, a couple other guys that were clearly going for the stage win.
And we'll talk about Leonard Kemner. What a heartbreak. I felt for the guy. I felt like he deserved to win, and we'll break down sort of our thoughts and opinions on should they have sort of gifted him the win. But of course,
we're going to get heavily into some of the unwritten rules of the Tour de France and things that can help you later.
Right, but I as Johan says a lot on our side chats, I think all of those rules and any history and tradition, I think it's out the window. I think this is every man, every team for himself. They don't care if you stopped for the yellow jersey in 1972 when he went to the bathroom.
Yeah, the same with yesterday.
You stopped to kiss his baby or say hi to his village or any of that shit. I think it's done. I think they're like, we're going.
Exactly. With Wout being in the breakaway yesterday, I asked Johan and several other directors that are actually in the race, and all of them were like, we have no idea. This is new to cycling. And I mean, the guy.
Why Wout was doing what he did.
Yesterday,
no one could
correct.
explain.
Nobody could
except
explain.
Wout van Aert.
Yep.
And of course, Tadej Pogacar, again, exceptional. Wins the stage in the yellow jersey, gains more time. His team looked pretty solid to me.
Like Brandon McNulty mentioned yesterday, the guy's probably going to want to win today, which they went on the front and they never gave the breakaway more than 3 minutes. A very strong breakaway, which is no easy task in itself. And they were good today. We saw them at the front. UAE was great today. We saw them at the front all day, controlling the race. I know that we're thinking, usually you might want to let the yellow jersey go, save the guys for the latter half of the Tour de France, but these guys are not saving anything. They're going all in.
Or let another team get a huge stage win. I mean, it wouldn't have been very hard. In fact, it would have been very easy for them to just sit up a little bit and let Bora win the stage, let Kemna win the stage.
And get some help from Bora.
But also, those cars are all back there together. Now, again, I don't know if the game is played this way like it used to be played, but those cars are all passing each other and chatting with each other. And you just say, Merry Christmas, guys. And they go, thank you very much, Santa Claus. And they don't forget, right? You never know if you need some of that.
Yeah, exactly. You say Merry Christmas, and a couple of days from now, maybe asking you for a favor.
Right, right.
So had they backed off a little bit, Kemna gets the win. Bora might do a lot of pulling through the next valley, right? And give the UAE guys a little bit of a breather.
Nobody's drawing up contracts, right? And there's no, it's a gentleman's agreement. But again, I think this sport is completely different. Maybe that's how the game was played in our day and in the generations before us.
So much so that we'd even bluff it to where we'd put the whole team in the front in the valley, and there'd be a breakaway with a clear favorite, a clear climber. We'd go to the front and start accelerating just to bluff the other teams into going up to Johan and going, hey, what's going on here? Why are you chasing so hard? He's not close to the jersey. Let's discuss what's happening here. Mm-hmm. And Johan would, perhaps say, okay, we'll slow down, but we're going to need some help later on.
Now, the one thing I will say about Tadej Pogacar, and just to compare and contrast to our generation or our team, is he does, and I don't know the kid, I just know from what I see on TV and see him interact with other riders and with his team and post-race interviews. I mean, and I don't know if he tries. I mean, the kid is just a nice kid, whereas some guys on our team were nice. The leader of the team was a complete raging asshole. And so that would come back to bite us. But if you have this kid we don't even see what's happening in the first hour. If he's running around and knows that, guy number 187 just had a baby a month ago and he's like, hey, how's the baby?
Right.
I mean, politicking. Right? He might be that good. And that's...
I'm thinking back. I mean, did any of your close friends ever mention that to you back in the day? Like, just try to be a little bit nice? No.
Well, yes, yeah, we did.
I thought I may have, but
we did see that little exchange between Pogacar and Wout van Aert after Van Aert, and they were just, they seemed friendly.
Yep.
And this came up on JB Squared too. I found an article that Pogacar's father had written about him, and it sounds like he was, grew up with very family-oriented siblings, not a lot of, didn't do what a lot of teenagers did. Didn't get a smartphone until really late. You do your chores, you pitch in with the family, you read classics, you listen to, classical music, like very...
we're very different.
Right.
The White Eye Rock, the Motley Crue, getting drunk with your friends.
Same thing?
It's totally different.
Yeah.
That sort of explains some things.
Yeah.
Golly.
But breaking it down from the start of that climb, I mean, you saw UAE was clearly going for the stage win. They set the tempo with McNulty. Micah, they saved Micah to the end. They had George Bennett, he's looking a lot better. And I thought it was interesting too, when you have those three climbers, Bennett, Micah, and McNulty. Yes, you normally say, okay, Johan would say, we're going to save Micah to the end, and McNulty start at the bottom. But this is sort of like an on-the-road call between those three guys, where they'd go to each other and say, I'm not feeling great, but I'm pretty sure I can do the first 2 kilometers. So these guys were discussing themselves amongst each other right before the start of that climb. And you saw McNulty took over first, then Bennett, and then Micah just put it down all on the line for that last couple K, and which we're going to show the video when him pulling off with 1K to go. That's quite impressive how much pressure he put on the top climbers of the world.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, we'll roll this clip. You'll see what George just described, and then Vingegaard attack, and then how
Michael says, yeah, I'm done. You got to go now.
I've had enough.
So I even wrote in my notes here, why is Pogacar pulling with 1K to go? But clearly he's going for the stage win. He's not thinking about anything else but the stage win.
And here is a bit of this is a rope-a-dope. He lets Vingegaard go around him. Of course, Klemna, whatever, however you say it, is he is on the inside there too. I want to talk about that in a second. Is a total rope-a-dope. Gets in the saddle. Here I'm thinking he's going to let Vingegaard win. You don't, when it's this steep, you only need 50 or 60 meters, and then you come right around him. And they give each other a little look.
Comes around him in the last 15, 20 meters. I mean, to give you an indication of how steep this climb was, some of the best climbers in the world, Roberto, Ron, Quintana, Martinez, they lost 45 seconds in probably the last 250 to 300 meters.
Yeah.
That's how steep that thing was.
When it's that steep, you just don't need, go back and you guys can watch it at home, but it's you don't need many. I mean, if you think about a sprint finish, it's sort of decided once they get to 100, they're going so fast it passes like that. 100 meters here took them forever. You can create a ton of damage in just this is very, very rare. And then you throw in the fact that it's on gravel, which means it's loose. You can't typically stand up. You have to stay in the saddle. Completely changes the style of riding versus even a steep paved uphill finish where you can be out of the saddle and apply full pressure. This one you got to stay. It's like mountain biking. You got to stay in the seat.
And you mentioned
you saw Pogacar there. He stayed in the seat, and then a little bit out, but then had to go back down.
You mentioned Kamna, the line he took on that last turn.
So when it's this steep, and it was 24%, I think, and the road is bending. Right, so that means, and I don't know where they're measuring that. Let's say that the 24% is measured in the middle of the road. That means on the very inside of the road is 26, 27%. On the outside, all the way on, yes, you're going to ride farther. I'd rather ride farther at 21 or 22% than in the middle at 24 or 25. And he just kept hugging the inside. The other mistake he made, and I think he rode a hell of a ride, so I don't want to pick it apart, and I said it on before that little false flat, before the last little run up. That's his moment to just, yes, you have to keep going hard, but you got to know that the last 2-3 minutes are going to be the hardest of your life. So you got to set up a little bit, just wait for it, and then give it everything you have. My view was he was giving everything he had the entire climb.
Yeah, agreed. We actually mentioned it at the start. I mean, I feel like he could have used Shackman for another kilometer at least, which could have made a huge difference in that final kilometer. Shackman was still there even when Kemner went. He kind of held back about 50 meters behind him, which indicates that he still had a little bit of left. I would have used him a bit more. It's hard to, I feel bad looking, criticizing his ride because it was an incredible ride. It was aggressive between him and Shackman going on that third category climb, sprinting up the breakaway. They were all in for the win, and unfortunately they didn't get it.
Let me just tell you how cycling works. Who won this? What team won the stage today? UAE. What team got last, second to last, and third from last?
UAE.
UAE.
Yep.
Pretty amazing. Mark Hirschi's having a hell of a hard time. This is a guy that never should be last in a mountain stage course, a last-minute replacement for Trentin. But Lantern Rouge today, I don't see him coming back around. But it does happen. You do have guys that are just not good in the first half. They've got the guy in yellow. The director sits them down and says, man, you got to pick it up. You have to show up. We need you. And then second half, you see them. They are a totally different rider. I don't think we're going to see that with Mark Hirschi, but...
No doubt Mark Hirschi's an incredible rider. He's got 2 days to get through the Alps, which aren't massive Alp stages. And then the rest day, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back in that second week of the Tour de France.
Have you looked at the second week?
Well, I'm just saying, if he gets through these next 3 days with the rest day, he could come back to his level.
Then they've got a couple not so easy days, and then they have Alpe d'Huez on Bastille Day on Thursday. This is a totally different structure of a tour or tour route that I've really ever seen. I mean, typically you would have the prologue, the sort of jockeying for position in the first week. Saturday, Sunday is like kickoff, big mountain days in France. If it's in the Alps, it's got to be Alpe d'Huez. It's got to be the Glibier. It's got to be these iconic climbs. Saturday, Sunday, you're going to have climbs that most people have never heard of. Yeah. Which is rare, and then you're gonna, and I'm not complaining. I think it's actually kind of cool to spread it out, and certainly better for us, gives us stuff to talk about in the middle of the week. But an Alpe d'Huez on a Thursday,
yeah,
and then the Friday stage right after that. Oh,
and now the teams of the other favorites are seeing we can't just let UAE get to the bottom of the climb with all their climbers. We're going to have to now put them under pressure on the second or third to last climb to really start trying to isolate Pogacar and trying to get a little bit of a head start before that final climb. Because if they let him roll in with 3 or 4 guys, it's going to keep happening what happened today.
Special shout out to Primož Roglič. This guy is tough. When we saw him earlier in the stage carrying bottles.
Yep.
In the back of the jersey, in the pockets, riding the bottles up to the team, and finishes, right up there.
Right up there. He was the third man standing on Pogacar's wheel.
Yeah, finishes third today.
Arguably probably his worst day after the crash. So I'm hoping now we're just going to start seeing a much better and better Roglič, who was arguably the second best rider in the Tour de France. So I want to see him at his best because it's going to make the race a lot more exciting.
By the way, it's still we have a long ways to go, and it's pretty evident that Tadej Pogacar is the best guy in the race. But it's not. There's still. For as dominant as he's been to be leading by 35 seconds is nothing.
That's nothing.
And a minute 10 over Geraint Thomas, 1:18 over Adam Yates.
And now he might be getting a little bit of animosity going on in the group. I mean, he's two stage wins in a row where he clearly just could have protected or even let the yellow jersey go if he's thinking about the overall finish in Paris. I don't know. I mean, you need friends in this peloton. I always say having more friends is better than not. So.
Question for you, JB, to pass on for you and Johan to discuss on JB Squared, because Alan Piper is not in the team car. He's not the number one director. I'm sure he's consulting on the phone and helping out at night with the meetings and stuff. But what is Alan Piper? Because I know what Johan does. I mean, I don't like it, but I know what he does. I know what he recommends. What does Alan Piper recommend with this dynamic? Does he let that jersey go? Does he let stage wins go? I think Johan will have a good sense for what Alan would do in that situation.
Okay. And that kind of ties together. It's Alan Piper. We've talked about him. He's been sick with cancer.
Yeah.
And if you didn't catch Pogacar's post-race interview, again, something you two have in common, he made a little bit of an announcement on why he was wearing some special shoes.
It was a really special day. We opened foundation today for cancer research, so I wear special shoes just for today, and I'm really happy and proud to take this win on Planche de Belleville.
Maybe a little extra motivation to get the win.
Yeah, he mentioned the foundation. He mentioned how hard his team worked, and he didn't want to let them down. So you can see that part of it as well.
And the thing that all that's great, and it is great. If he's riding different shoes from yesterday and different shoes from today, I would never get on a bike again. My body would have been completely wrecked because it's not just a pair of running shoes or a pair of golf shoes or a pair of football shoes, whatever. I mean, you got to remember, very, very stiff shoes clipped into a pedal. The pedals and the cleats have to be aligned. Like, I would be an absolute mess if I changed shoes.
You guys have talked about that before. Even your spare shoes that are in the car, you want an older worn pair.
But your worst nightmare is that you have to take those in the race because they are never the same. Yeah. I mean, Einstein couldn't have set up the cleats and the shoes and the pedals identically. There's no way.
They have much more precise tools for that these days. But yeah, I agree. Changing shoes in the middle of a Tour de France, it's not an easy task.
Yeah.
I think we should also mention some of the GC favorites. Ben O'Connor did not look great today. Unfortunately, he got popped with about 5K to go. Vlasov, who's been looking amazing, also had a bad day.
Right.
So it was some.
But also had some crashes. So your theory of the 2-3 days after a crash, that's when the man with the hammer shows up.
Could be.
He was certainly off today.
Yep. And then I saw yesterday, I love the guy, Quinn Simmons, a total badass, but he was doing the COVID high fives at the finish line.
Oh.
Which kind of surprises me. And then Pogacar was doing them today, slapping everybody's
Let me
hand.
describe more of what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Just riding after the finish, riding back down along the crowd and just high-fiving everyone when COVID may be on the rise. We don't know.
We don't know. It's just I feel like it's just a little bit of an extra risk that probably shouldn't be taken. I'm not a viral expert by any means, but these days, I'm not slapping all kinds of hands.
We're not there yet. But in general, you guys, not just COVID, you don't want to get sick during the tour. So touching fans, probably not a good idea.
Well, I would in this look. I think it's great. Fans love it, but we are living in an era that we're living in. It's unless you can be so disciplined that you don't touch your face, you don't touch anybody, and you get down and you just scrub the shit out of your hands.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's cool for the fans, but look, we're living in the COVID era and totally ill-advised. Hey guys and gals, today's show also, and this is totally relevant because I'm just sitting here reading a news article that just came out. Today's show also brought to you by HVMN. As we've talked about every day, the vast majority or the majority of this peloton are using HVMN ketones, the ketone IQ. It's their newest and greatest ketone ester or twist on the ketone ester. I see a headline here on the internet from Jumbo Visma saying, and the headline is, the French teams don't work with the same professionalism as us. So the director of Jumbo Visma was being criticized by the media, by this organization called the Mouvement pour Credible Cyclisme, blah, blah, blah. And it's all in and around ketones. And he actually goes on the record and says that they are looking for, quote unquote, looking for excuses in a bid to maintain their relevancy. The suspicion often comes from France, and nobody's really interested in the manner in which we work. Maybe the French won't like this, but I think they don't work with the same professionalism as we do. They regularly suggest our results are due to ketones.
Ooh, we also don't want to criticize the French in the Tour de France.
Now going this route, I know we're talking about HVMN, but going down this route, they will pile on. But nonetheless, the vast majority, and I'm sure a lot of the French teams are also using HVMN ketones. They absolutely work. They are nature's super fuel. Special offer and that I just completely can combine content and one of our supporters, but it's a true story. Head on over to hvmn.com and use the promo code THEMOVE20 for 20% off at checkout.
There's no doubt the way the riders are fueling themselves is becoming, a major part of their successes. We saw it today. Pogacar went 30 seconds faster than Pinot in 2019 with the same exact finish. And with this tour, how hard it's been, of course, all Tour de France are really hard, but this tour seems to be particularly harder than most.
Which means if you look at the results, that means if he was 30 seconds faster, that means that 9 guys went 30 seconds faster. At least 30. The ninth place was 29 seconds down. So 9 of those guys beat the previous KOM. Oof. This peloton's fast. They're all strong and they're all serious. And to your point, George, the diet, nutrition, fueling, it's just like shifting now. It's like, okay, feels a little uphill, I'm going to shift up. Feels a little down, I'm going to shift down. Like they are that automated.
Absolutely. And you saw at the bottom of the climb. So we're talking, it was a 7K climb. So I think 20 minutes, let's say, más o menos. Adam Yates and Geraint Thomas were both popping a gel. I don't think I've ever seen you popping a gel with like 20 minutes to go in a race, but they have this so dialed in and they know exactly what they need for, the amount of time left in a race.
Yeah, you pointed out like they did it like it was an
same
order.
Exact time. Yeah,
in order, like they're staying on top of nutrition at a whole different level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. A couple other things we should mention. The women's race are going to do that same climb you saw today. That's going to be the final stage for the FEMS Tour, which we'll be covering. And then another thing, you talk about don't change shoes. You definitely don't want to change bikes. And early in the stage, UAE, George noted it, they all had to go back to the car and had issues.
Yeah, I think 4 of the riders went back and switched up bikes, and they were clearly frustrated to have to do that. Obviously, it didn't affect them much.
So these were not
finish.
planned bike changes. Because a lot of times you can have a planned bike change, but these were not planned.
It didn't look like it because it was super early on in the stage. And I think Brandon McNulty had to stop twice to change bikes. So there was clearly something going on. We'll have to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, today's show also, and if you're watching the show, you'll know this, and maybe we should start just a whole separate side competition for best dressed, either G or myself, but we're both rocking some Huckberry, our good friends down there, again, in our hometown of Austin, Texas. Just doing the coolest stuff. Totally curated. See me? Look at this. Oh, man. For an old fart,
We all got, JB's got the hoodie on.
JB,
I'm more of a casual.
What's that hoodie
you're-
called?
It's the Wellens is the
Yeah,
brand.
I
and
got,
it's
I got the
super
Flint
soft.
and Tinder flannel,
Yeah.
which my daughter already said she's going to steal from me.
head on over to huckberry.com/Lance. The cool thing about huckberry.com/Lance is you can see the three of us went online and curated this page of just stuff that we think is dope and that we like and that we would wear. And they sent us a nice care package, but they curate all their stuff. They own a few of these brands, their content. A full disclosure is, more for guys that want to be outdoors and camping and fishing and biking and pushing themselves. But these guys are crushing it. Andy and Rich, love them. Keep it up.
All right. Let's take a look at tomorrow. We'll go ahead and roll that preview of the stage and the profile. Here we go. See what you guys think.
Let me pull it up on the pro. You'll see the profile too. Now again, this is the first big Saturday in the Tour de France in the Alps. I do like the route. I just think this is a snooze fest. I mean, you're going to give me a Cat 4, Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 3 on a Saturday, first big Saturday in the mountains in the Tour de France.
Yeah, I think this is the first day that you will see a big breakaway go, and most of the guys stay away.
We're all agreeing on
make
that. This is totally agree.
What is that? What happens with that? That's going to mean the first 50 kilometers, hour and a half of the race is going to be complete chaos, super hard, super aggressive. These days are some of the hardest days in the Tour de France. The starts are just extremely, extremely fast, stressful, and difficult.
Yeah.
And at the finish, as you guys would call it, a little schnock. It's not just a run
A
in.
little schnock. But no, it's not. There is a section of 12%, but you're going to have it being duked out by, 5 to 15 guys at that point, and which is still exciting.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see,
Barring any crashes or bike and mechanicals, we don't foresee any sort of GC shakeup tomorrow.
Yeah. Always a tie-in when they go to Lausanne because of the International Olympic Committee is there. So there's probably some some brouhaha there. But then also you go to the Sunday stage, not to get ahead of ourselves, a little more of a typical mountain stage on a Sunday, first Sunday in the mountains in the Tour, Cat 4, Cat 2, Cat 1, Cat 1. Still not that hard. I mean, it's just different, I'll get around it. I'll get used to it. I've gotten used to a lot of shit in my life.
We have a treat from our good friend Joe Natoli.
No.
We found a picture of Johan from 1987.
This is so
And couldn't help but notice how much he looked like a member of Duran Duran in about 87.
wow.
And so Joe put this together.
So-
That's Johan in the middle. That's the legit picture of him.
And sir, another one for JB Squared is Johan even going to know who Duran Duran is?
I don't know.
He's Googling it right now.
Before you even say, just don't, all right, he's probably listening right now, so we ruined the surprise. But if he wasn't, you could say, have you ever heard of Duran Duran?
And we got to bring up our bottles. Check out my Super Mosca The Feed bottles, which apparently I'm closing the gap. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
team
with
back
the
there.
feed. So
I'm closing the gap.
hang on.
I'm
No,
down.
okay.
I'm down just over 40.
I smell a conspiracy. But if anybody can pull away again, it's MC Hammer, our friends over at thefeed.com. Anybody gets a free bottle. But that's that on a percentage basis.
I'm coming for you.
You are definitely coming for. I might have to issue one of those wimpy emotional pleas like you did that one day, because that's the kind of stuff that works with you every time. God, I'm surprised I've been in front this long. It's a shocker to me. It really is.
Hey, some really good news. Our listeners, I love you guys. They're stepping up. We're still very early in our fundraising for Bikes for Kids Uvalde. Where the plan is just before school starts is to get down to Uvalde and distribute a bunch of bikes to all the elementary school kids for that whole town, over 700 of them.
Hey,
and here we are, first week of the tour.
that's $20,000 in a day.
Yeah. Just over $80,000. We're doing well. $275 buys a bike and a helmet for one kid. We've made it pretty simple to click and buy one bike, 2 bikes, 4 bikes, or whatever amount you want to do. If you do $20, that's great too. But we're getting there. So thanks to everybody at Operation Get Out and Wish for Wheels. Mellow Johnny's is probably already wrenching on these bikes.
Great. And come on down and help us distribute the bikes to these kids that have gone through so much. I mean, think about it. And you know, I'm, you know, you could even raise the question of, can anybody ever go back to that school? Imagine how hard it will be to go back. So let's be there for those kids on one of the first days and make sure they got a new set of wheels. And a bike will change a kid's life. Straight up.
And the focus is, as you guys know, how is your mental health if you don't ride your bike, right?
Yep.
Getting outside. Some quick shout outs to some people who've donated a bike or more real quick, if you don't mind. Let's see. John Gallinall, Michael Woodbury, Christine Pollock, John Rowland, Melanie Wadlow, Jennifer Hamlet, Mark Baggett, David Thorpe. Thank you. That's just a few of the names who've been very, very generous. So thank you.
And just to touch on Planche de Belfi again, and we all watched the race today. You saw how hard it was today, just trying to compete for a stage win. Imagine if that was the last day of the bike race, right? Well, it is. It is the last day of the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift this year. That is stage number 8. Stage number 7 is equally as epic, but that is what we saw today on the gravel. That is their Champs-Elysees. How badass is that?
Yeah, that's gonna be fun
That will
to
make
watch.
for an epic finish. Yeah, they don't get the parade in the champagne.
No, there's. I don't
right?
think they loop them back on a plane and cruise around on the Champs Elysees with the champagne. No, that's the finish of the race. I think that is so iconic, and we of course will be covering that. I'm going to trade out these two bros for Allison Tetrick and Mari Holden.
They're going to be great.
It's going to be amazing.
We've had both them on many times, and they know their stuff.
But I can't get my head around that. That's because if it's a day that hard, it's really anybody's race. And if it's a close race, then it's, oh my Lord,
It's gonna be
fireworks.
tough one.
How would
Definitely.
you have felt about that? A mountaintop finish on the last day. You probably would have liked it, but
Well, the way I usually spent my nights on the night before Paris, I would not have liked it.
Yeah, I mean, we usually count the second last day as the last day anyway. The Paris
Right.
thing is more of a parade.
yeah, for sure.
This is no parade.
No,
No.
I see it took some women to come along here and show us how wimpy us men are. We'll let you dudes cruise around the Champs-Elysees and drink champagne. No. We're going to finish on the
Climbing
Planche de
the mountain.
Belfi on gravel, 25%.
And something cool for the Femmes Tour first year is they will roll out of Paris to begin. That's the same day the men roll in. So they should get a nice warm rollout from the crowds. By the way, if you want to donate, that's wedo.team. All right.
Sorry.
That's all right. I skipped over that. And you can also email us a couple of them real quick. I think you guys will find this interesting. With Pogacar so dominant in GC competition, individual, does this highlight the need for team time trials in every Tour de France? Without it, an individual rider who is strong enough can get by without having a strong team, it seems. Sincerely, Stephen.
Okay, it's a question for Johan because he knows these teams and the riders and how they would perform in a team time trial better than anybody. But if you just, again, going back to yesterday's conversation, if you just take the 3 teams, we know Ineos would have a spectacular team time trial. Jumbo-Visma, I think, would win. They could just sit on Wout van Aert. And UAE would, my hunch is they would lose some time. So, it depends how long the team time trial is, but look, you're never going to get an argument out of me whether or not we need the team time trial. It's the fans' favorite. It's amazing to watch, and would change the dynamic of this race. So yes.
well, I agree. But at the same time, if there was a team time trial, the teams would know well in advance, and they would do a lot of planning around that team time trial. And I'm sure UAE might have brought a couple different riders for that.
They would adjust for it.
They would adjust for it.
They would. I still think they lose time.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you guys kind of went through that too. Where you won the Tour de
Except
France.
we never lost time.
But then it seemed like, from my recollection, let's throw a team time trial at them and see how they do. And you guys prepared.
Right. It's a great question, and it's one that I think we'll see it again. The Tour is not gonna let this. They don't like this kind of domination. They want to change it up so that the race is uncertain, the race is unpredictable. There's animation, there's curveballs, there's all these things. They want that. The team time trial would help. throw cobbles at Tadej Pogacar, throw an early gravel stick. None of that will affect him. You got to find. They will find other ways to make it interesting.
Yeah, what can you throw at Pogacar though? Good luck.
I don't know. Maybe the prologue on a unicycle. I don't know. I mean,
one more, and this is a little lengthy, but worth it. Stick with me. Hi, Lance, George, and JB. My name is Jack. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. My dad, Chad, and I are huge fans and both cyclists. I'm 22, recent college grad. He's 51. My dad and Lance actually have very similar lives. Grew up with rough childhoods, but amazing mothers. Both found cycling at a young age, and both are cancer survivors. So Lance is a huge idol for my father. Myself, like Lance's son, played college football. It wasn't until my dad did RAM in 2018 for cancer research that I truly wanted to invest in cycling myself. During COVID, finally invested in a gravel bike, but I'm hoping to get an upgrade to a GS1 soon. And it's a great way to get my mind off COVID while at school. So here are my questions. Has your son ever been into cycling as a bigger guy like myself? And what's your best advice for new cyclists trying to get in the sport? God bless, and we'll be donating to Uvalde from Jack.
so Luke is not, no, he's not ever gone on any. It'd be a curious. I think the longest ride Luke ever did was 25 miles, but and he's not as big as he was when he was playing high school football and college football. He's still a big kid, so. He works out a ton. He runs a lot. You never know. Never say never. Our little guy, Max, is built more like a cyclist. That might be his jam.
And bikes are a big part of the culture here where he's growing up.
And he mentioned getting a new gravel bike. I think for people that, I always worry about beginners out on the open roads with cars that are maybe not paying attention or just mistakes and accidents can happen. That freaks me out. Gravel's a great option. Like, get away from the cars. Don't stress. Like, focus on just riding the bike, and don't try to stress too much about getting hit by a car, getting hurt. And just start easy. I mean, nobody needs to. It's just like running. I mean, nobody's going to start on day one and go run a marathon. Run a couple miles next week. Run 3 miles, and then just work your way into it.
Yeah, and most towns have their local group rides. It's always fun if you're just starting out into cycling to find out where they are when they go and start doing those rides. As group riding will help you get more comfortable riding the bike and riding a bike around people, and it makes it more fun as well.
But we don't have it to show with our listeners yet. I mean, we can pull it up on another day, but you're talking about your kids and cycling. Enzo, George's son's sporting a national champions jersey. Pretty cool pictures that he put online. He shared yesterday or the day before.
But can we talk about the haircut? Should I talk to him?
Apparently, it's like a teener thing now.
That's not like when we were kids. We call them bowl cuts. That's like a helmet cut. Like he just puts the helmet on and cuts around the helmet. Is that a thing?
It's kind of like Mush Mouth from Fat Albert, if you remember that.
That's the haircut.
Look at that.
I mean, that is something.
Hey, I would kill for that kind of hair.
Yeah,
you would.
I can't complain.
All right. Cool.
All right. If you have a question for a future show, please send it to TheMOVE@wedo.team.
Yep. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.